Today's tests are going to be the pro time or the prothrombin time, or sometimes it's just called the PT in the coagulation class, and it monitors the extrinsic clotting factors, which are 3, 7, 10, 5, 2, and 1. And another thing it monitors is the drug Coumadin. Sometimes it's called warfarin or Coumarin. So we're going to run just the level 1 and level 3 control. The level 1 is a normal control. It has the normal amount of clotting factors. The level 3 is abnormal high control, and it doesn't have enough clotting factors, so the seconds take longer. The reagent is thromboplastin, and there's different brands. I've already diluted it with 10 mils of DI water, and the controls each got 1 mil of DI water, and then they've sat for their 15 minutes. Then I've mixed them. I already have the thromboplastin incubating in the reagent holder, so it's ready to go. The one thing, factor 3 is in the extrinsic system, but the reagent provides it. So we actually monitor 7, 10, 5, 2, and 1. So the first thing we want to do is run our test in duplicate, and we label our test tubes with level 1 for the normal control. Then we label the test tubes 3 for the abnormal control. And now we're ready to go. This all has to get to 37 because that mimics body temperature. So the first thing we're going to do is take our 100 lambda, our microliter pipette, and we're going to put 1/10 of level 1, and you always want to mix your reagents once they've been sitting. So before you do any test in the lab, and then I always rim it as I come up, and then I put it in the first test tube, and remember we run it in duplicate. And when you pipette, rim it, but also don't pop your thumb, whether you do it this way or that way, because sometimes it'll draw up extra. It's a smooth, slow motion when you pipette. Then you discard your tip. You always change tips when you are changing reagents. So we're going to use the 100 microliter, which is the same as 1/10 of a milliliter. So we're going to put those into 2 cups labeled 3, which is the number of our abnormal high control. And once again, smooth pipetting and rim it as you come out so you don't get excess. Like I said, our reagent is ready to go, but with our reagent, we need 2/10 or 200 microliters, so it fits the same tip. These tips fit up to 250 microliters. And then our reagent is already warmed to 37, so we have to move the test tube over, put it all the way to the bottom, which is our reaction chamber, and it's based on electromechanical. No, I'm wrong. It's based on optical density. As the density of the clot, and the clot looks kind of like a hunk of snot, the density of the clot there's an endpoint that's built in, and it knows to stop the seconds when that clot has formed. So we rim it again, then this notched area on the pipette, you sit over the little button at the top of this, and you press the black button, and it counts in seconds. The ideal situation is to match within 5/10 of seconds. Today we're just going to show you 2 of each, whether they match or not, but ideally if your pipetting is good, and you want to discard the pipette because it can splash and you don't want to take a chance of contamination, then you want to put your next cuvette, and it'll put the time back to 0, and keep in mind that was 12.1. So you get your next set, rim it, you come over the little button or knob at the top, you press the black button, and hopefully it'll match within 5/10. And it did. It was within 1/10. So we take the average. Many times with it's 12.1 to 12.0. I just take the first one and I report it 12.1. I don't report it 12.05. So that is the pro time for level 1. Next we'll do level 3. And a lot of the students have a little bit trouble with level 3 because it's a higher control. So we have our level 3 1/10 in there. We put it back to 0. I still am using the thromboplastin, which is factor 3. I still put it over the little button and I press the black button. This one tends to run, depending on your thromboplastin, it can run sometimes in the 20s or 30s, depending on the thromboplastin each lab's use. So you'll see when you're at clinical, it'll vary. Many times machines at the hospital setting will give you a little bit more leeway on when the result is a higher value. So you'll have to see what leeway they give you on your higher controls. This one's going higher than normal. Some of our controls are only in the 20s and 30s. This one read 45. So at a hospital setting, you might get more leeway than 0.5 seconds, and we'll see how we match. So you'll see when you're out at the actual workplace, if your value is higher than 30, you may get more leeway of matching. So that was 45 seconds, and we'll see how well they match with it being a higher value. Sometimes watching things, you don't realize how long it takes, but then when you're not paying attention to time, it's over in a flash. So you'll see that's when you're busy at work, it's like you want more time. So that one didn't quite match within 0.5, but it's a high enough value that you probably would be acceptable being 45 to 43.6. So that is the first coag test called a pro time.